योगेन चित्तस्य पदेन वाचाम् मलं शरीरस्य च वैद्यकेन योपाकरोत्तं प्रवरं मुनीनां पतञ्जलिं प्राञ्जलिरानतोऽस्मि आबाहुपुरुषाकारं शङ्खचक्रासिधारिणं सहस्रशिरसं श्वेतं प्रणमामि पतञ्जलिं गुरुर्ब्रह्मा गुरुर्विष्णुर् गुरुर्देवो महेश्वरः गुरुः साक्षात् परब्रह्म तस्मै श्रीगुरवे नमः हरिः ओम्. So in the previous session, we completed looking at the Sutra 3.26, which was Bhuvanajñānam Surye Sanyamat. As part of that, we also looked at in a lot of detail information about the various lokas, which, so to speak, are above the world of humans, that is the world of celestials, also the below the world of humans, and then what we refer to as esoteric geography, with the Mount Meru, the various dvipas, their expanse, the kind of things that are present there. And also among the celestials, we had a very fascinating categorization of the celestials. We also looked at when we say Surya Sanyamat, one interpretation is Surya as the Savita Devata, the deity. The other interpretation was also Surya as present within, where when Vyasa says Surya Dvare, that is sort of the Surya Chakra, the Sushumna, and so on, the internal representation of the same, and the Sanyama on that leading to this kind of Siddhi. Now we continue from there to come to the next sutra, which is a very small sutra with a very small single line bhashya. So that is Sutra 3.27, which says candre tārāvyūhajñānam. So when it says candre, it means by sanyama on the chandra. Chandra refers to the moon. So here it is the moon deity. And when one does sanyama on that, incidentally, this is the 11th of the sanyamas described in this particular Vibhuti Pada. So now, by sanyama on the chandra, what is the siddhi? The siddhi is tārāvyūhajñānam. So the whole plane of stars and planets, etc., and their arrangement, one gets jnanam, sakshatkara about that. So that is the siddhi from the sanyama on chandra. So Vyasa's elaboration is very short. He says, chandre sanyamam krutva tārāvyūham vijaniyāt. Essentially, he completes the sentence of the sutra by expanding and adding the necessary words. So he is saying, by having a sanyama on the chandra, chandre sanyamam krutva, tārāvyūham vijaniyāt, one is to understand or one is to get to know of the tārāvyūha. Tara refers to the stars and astronomical bodies. So the one should get to know all of them and everything about them through the sanyama on the chandra. There's another text, Yoga Siddhanta Chandrika, that provides slightly more background, or adds more color to it. It says, सूर्यस्य नक्षत्रादि अभिभावकत्वात् तत्संयमात् साक्षात्कारकाले नक्षत्रादिज्ञानं कठिनम् इति मत्वा पृथक् उपायः कथितः. So it is a very interesting, sort of an amusing note where it says that Suryasya nakshatradi abhibhavakatvat. So normally when the sun rules the sky, the stars are not to be seen at all. So the nature of the sun is to make the stars disappear because of its own brilliance. The light of the stars are completely overcome. And therefore, tat sanyamat, by the sanyama on the Surya as described in the previous sutra, in that when the sakshatkara happens, the bhuvana jnanam etc. sakshatkara had been mentioned, at that time nakshatradi jnanam katinam, it is difficult to get the sakshatkara jnanam about a nakshatra because the Surya sanyama, the brilliance of the Surya, is going to overpower all the luminosity of the stars, like it happens in the normal course. And therefore, says this text, that a separate means, prithak upayah, a separate means, a separate sanyama has been prescribed for one to get information about the tārāvyūha, about the Tara Mandala, the stars. And that is how that text explains the presence of the sutra and the siddhi coming from that. And therefore it is also mentioned elsewhere that says yad vishayaha sanyamaha tad jatiyasya sakalasya sakshatkaraha. So now the chandrama or the sun is known as the tārādhipaha. It is sort of the lord of the stars. So that is why it is known as tārādhipaha. And then it says, because that is the nature of the chandrama, then yad vishaya sanyamas tadjatiyasya sakalasya sakshatkaraha. And because it is the lord of the stars, by the nyaya or by this maxim that if the sanyama is done on a certain thing, the complete sakshatkara of not only that thing, but everything related to it or everything of a similar nature. So tadjatiyasya sakalasya sakshatkaraha. And because the moon is said to be the lord of the stars, Tārādivaha, by sanyama on the moon alone, automatically, because the Tara is said to be tadjatiya, similar in nature, one gets sakshatkara of the tārāvyūha, all the various astronomical bodies like stars, etc. as well. So that is some interesting elaboration behind this brief sutra and the brief bhashya provided to us by Patanjali Vyasa.
candre tārāvyūhajñānam. Tārāvyūha. Now, the stars are not just studying the sky. They have their arrangements. So, their arrangements are so important for the whole phenomenalism on the planet and in the life which is on the planet as well. That is our light. So, the astrology considers the tārāvyūha, the arrangement of the stars, as very important thing. And therefore we have concepts such as Agni Nakshatra. Then we know it is summer and it is summertime and summer condition. Summer condition exalting under Agni Nakshatra. We have Parjanya Nakshatras where we are told that because of the Nakshatra, the rains are going to happen. So in astrology, this arrangement of the stars and planets is so important. And the Jyotish Shastra, for Jyotish Shastra, it is so very important, Tārāvyūha. It is not that the stars are just haphazardly placed in the sky. They have some schemes. There are clusters of stars. They have arrangement of the stars. And little deep into astronomy will tell us something about it. That is not that stars are falling here and there in the sky. in a haphazard way, but they have some purpose and they signify something. So, tārāvyūhajñānam is related to Chandra. That is the moon. The moon is a night object, and you just now heard that moon being a night object and taras, that is graha nakshatras, the stars and planets, are also night objects. They are very much in the space, but you do not see them during daytime. So also all studies of astronomy based on observations, they have to do it at night time. They cannot make observations with regards to sun at night, and they cannot make observations with regards to stars and planets and moon during daytime, because Chandra is a nighttime celestial body, which is quite prominent body, celestial body at night times, and the sun is prominent body in daytimes, so much prominent that apart from sun, you will sight nothing, although they are all around. All the stars are in the sky during the daytime as well. But because of the effulgence of the sun, they cannot be sighted. Therefore, all astronomical observations take place at night times, because the planets and stars are visible only at night. And that is the moon time. Moon time is a night time. And therefore, the Chandra has been related to tārāvyūhajñānam. And in Jyotish Shastra, this tārāvyūha has enormous importance to determine the date, day, time, etc. There is this Jyotish Shastra. And Jyotish Shastra will always consider the arrangement of the stars, arrangements of the planets, and that is why it is tārāvyūha. So they are all in arrangements. All the celestial bodies that you see at night have some arrangements. You will see the pole star in the same place day after day after day at night, year after year after year after at night time. So also the places of planets are also known as to where they will be. It is because there is an arrangement, and they are in a kind of arranged condition that's called tārāvyūha. And it is very important for Jyotish Shastra. It is very important for astrology. It is very important for astronomy. Although may not be that much important for astrophysics, it is very important for astronomy. And therefore, Patanjali mentions that such intriguing knowledge, esoteric aspects of knowledge, is only possible by samyama on the moon. We all sight the moon at night whenever there is moonlight in the sky. But we just sight the moon and enjoy its very sight, that's all. But in astronomy and in astrology and in Jyotish Shastra, the moon is so significant because the moon will tell you what is to east of it and west of it and south of it and north of it, etc. So the night sky mapping is done with the help of moon. So that becomes quite important resource. And therefore, Chandre tārāvyūhajñānam. Why is the vyūhajñānam required here? Because the macrocosm is also in our microcosm. It's not only in the sky that we have that universe. It's not universe is above our heads. There is a replica of the universe. There is a same replication of the universe on minuscule scale, miniature scale within the embodiment, and therefore for the sake of embodiment also, tārāvyūhajñānam is important. Unlike the case of astronomy and astrophysics of this modern science, it has nothing to do with human embodiment. But they do have influence on human embodiment. Their positions at different points in time, the change of positions, the change of arrangements, that is going to change the life on the planet as well. And that's also going to change the life of ourselves, each individual. So Tāravyūha is important to understand our own embodiment. Astronomers will not bother about their own embodiment. Astrophysicists will not bother about their embodiment. They leave it to some other sciences to understand one's own embodiment, human embodiment. But in yoga, we have to understand that our embodiment is a miniature universe, minuscule universe, microcosm. And therefore, the macrocosm is quite significant subject matter. Therefore, candre, tārāvyūhajñānam, and you can relate the moon within our embodiment. The moon is presiding deity over the mind. Then you know how many systems are under the presidency of the mind, how many things are governed by the mind, and the mind is governed by the moon internally. So, mind is such an important aspect in human embodiment, and this mind has a presiding deity called Chandra Devata, and the Chandra Devata outside manifests in the sky as moon. And therefore, the Tāravyūhajñānam concept is so very important in the subjectivistic realm, and that's why you get the mention. Okay.
Guruji touches upon the microcosm aspect. He says in the last sutra, the sun, that is Surya, refers to the core of one's being, whereas the moon, the Chandra, refers to the mind and consciousness. The solar plexus is situated in the region of the trunk, the lunar plexus has the seat in the cerebrum. He often used to say moon is at the back of the brain. So by Sanyama on that region, the yogi gains further knowledge. And as was just said, Chandra is said to be the deity, the Adhishtatra Devata of Manas, the mind. Then Guruji says the galaxy of stars, the Tāravyūha, stands for the galaxy of thought waves, which like stars twinkle, disappear, reappear and shine forth once again. So the Yoga Shastra will typically bring in an adhyatmic, that is something within the body, parallel for something that is normally considered to be external to the body. And we see that here as well. Now moving on to the next Sanyama described, Sutra 3.28. It's in the same family of Sanyamas being given. It says dhruve tadgatijñānam. So dhruve means dhruve sanyamat. So dhruva is commonly known as the pole star. It refers to that star which is constant, while all the stars seem to be moving relative to it. So by that, the knowledge of the motion of the various tadgati means the motion of that which has been referred to in the previous sutra. So that is the motion of the Tāravyūha. One gets knowledge of that, and that is the siddhi of the sanyama on the dhruva. So that is dhruve tadgatijñānam. Once again, Vyasa has a small bhashya on this one as well. And Vyasa says, Tato dhruve sanyamam krutva tāranam gatim janiyat. So similar to how it was mentioned, that the Sanyama on the Chandra gave such and such siddhi. Here it says dhruve sanyamam krutva. By the Sanyama on the dhruva, one understands the motion of the Tara that has been mentioned earlier. ऊर्ध्व विमानेषु कृतसंयमः तानि जानीयात्. So this refers to the motion also of the vimanas, or the various celestial vehicles, as it is said. So if one wants to have the motion of the, so it is said in the Yoga Shastra, Puranas and elsewhere, that there are these celestial beings as well as the Siddhas who are traveling in the celestial world, in the Antariksha, etc. So further Vyasa adds to what the sutra has said by saying Urdhva Vimaneshu Kritasayamaha Tani Janiyat. So by having Sanyama on these Urdhva Vimanas, so the Surya Ratha, as we have heard, the chariot of the sun god, etc. And similarly there are Vahanas, there are so to speak vehicles for the various celestials. And he says by Sanyama on that, one gets the knowledge of about them as well. So by this, all the various aspects of the Antariksha Loka and the Svarga Loka, their Gati and Sthiti, because the Tārāvyūha is the arrangement, the Gati is the motion. So both of them can be known by the combination of the two sutras, the previous one as well as this one. So the point is that the dhruva is a nischala, it is unmoving, and therefore the sanyama on that is prescribed, so that the gati information is also available. And of course Dhruva is also, there's a famous story of Dhruva by his tapas at a very very young age. And the story is that he and his brother were children of the two wives of King Uttanapada. And the king was very fond of the second wife, and his son was sitting on the king's lap, whereas Dhruva wanted to sit on his father's lap, but he was pulled away. And then he had a certain scolding by the stepmother, and he decided to do tapas. And at a very young age, he does this tapas on Lord Vishnu, and then when Vishnu is pleased, which is said to be a very very exalted tapas and bhakti, so he asks, he blesses Dhruva, saying he will have his own unshakable kingdom. And that is the story behind the Dhruva Nakshatra. And that is the same Dhruva that is being referred to here as a Sanyama Sthanam. So that's about this sutra and the Bhashya.
Dhruve tadgatijñānam. Tadgati means tārāvyūha. The tārāvyūha, the taras, planet stars have arrangements, but their arrangements also changes. Like we have seasons caused by sun and moon on the planet. This tārāvyūha would be working for changes in the whole cosmos. So they have arrangements, but they also have movements. They do move. And Dhruva Tara, the pole star, is relatively stable. And that's why we say pole star, and we relate pole star to North Pole. And because that is relatively steady, the other movements become clear for grasp and understanding. And therefore Dhruva has been considered as a locus for understanding the movements of other stars and planets and celestial bodies. Because something static is important to understand the movement which might be taking place in other things. And that's why Dhruva is the locus of samyama. And therefore samyama on Dhruva will tell the yogi about the movements of the stars and starry system, which is important in, as I said, Jyotish Shastra, astrology. Now, by samyama on Dhruva, there is also additional testament. Urdhva vimaneshu patinamastani vijaniyat. Urdhva vimaneshu. That means in celestial plane we have already seen during the Bhuvana concept of Surya Sanyama, that there are seven planes below, 7 planes above. And then there are beings. We have seen the celestial beings in Bhuvar Loka, Suvar Loka, Maho Loka, Tapo Loka, Jano Loka. And we saw the various beings there. And these beings, they have vehicles to travel in the space from one loka to another loka. They will have to make a movement to be going from Bhuvar Loka to Suvar Loka, then to Mahar Loka to Tapor Loka, etc. So they have their vehicles. These vehicles are called Vimana. And therefore, by the Samyama, one will also know these movements of the celestial deities. If they are in excursions, if they are in travels, that is so important for a yogi to really understand. And that movement of Vimana also becomes realized by dhruva samyama. And that's why the Sutra dhruve tadgatijñānam. Okay.
Now we continue to the next sutra, which will talk about the 13th Sayama in the Vibhuti-pada. And it says, nābhicakre kāyavyūhajñānam. So, by Sayama on the nābhicakre, nābhi refers to the navel, nābhicakre is the navel region, and by Sayama on that, there is a Jnanam, the siddhi is Jnanam, complete sakshatkara, which we have discussed, of the kāyavyūha. Kaya means the body. Vyūha refers to usually certain arrangement, and there is the famous Chakravyūha of the Mahabharata. Often it will be made up of layers, inside and further inside, etc. So you get the knowledge or the sakshatkara, direct realization and perception of the kāyavyūha, the vyūha of the body. So that is the sutra, nābhicakre kāyavyūhajñānam. Now nābhicakra, if you look at the various yogic texts like the Yoga Upanishads, or the later texts like Hatha Yoga Pradipika, etc., the Hatha Yoga texts, some of the Tantra texts, etc., even Smriti texts like the Yoga Yajnavalkya, etc., the Navi is said to be the Kandasthana. So there is said to be a circular egg-shaped entity from which 72,000 nadis, again esoteric concepts that we probably have heard of, which carry the pranavayus or the different vayus, etc. So the Navi, in that sense, has a very special position in the yogic conception. So the nābhicakre is referred to here in the sutra. And similar sutras will come next, which also sort of tells us that the Yoga Sutras also recognize, because this is sometimes brought about as a debate as to whether the various concepts mentioned in the Hatha Yoga text or in the Yoga Upanishads, etc., and whether the Yoga Sutras accept that or not. So here we are clearly seeing in the Vibhuti-pada that the Sanyamam on the Nābhicakre is prescribed to get kāyavyūhajñānam. So Vyasa in his Bhashya, he says, Nābhicakre Sanyamam Krutva kāyavyūham vijaniyāt. So a very similar statement to the previous one, essentially completing the sentence of the sutra to say that when you do Sanyamam, which is of course the combination of Dharana, Dhyana, Samadhi, on the Nābhicakre, what happens? Kāyavyūham vijaniyāt. One is to get to know the Kāyavyūha. So what is this kāyavyūha? So he further says, Vata pitta shleshmanas trayo doshaha santi. So just like we saw in one of the sutras, we got a quick overview of the Vyakarana Shastra. Here also there is this reference to Ayurveda. So the beauty of Vibhuti Pada is by touching on various Sanyamas, the Sutra and the Bhashya also touches upon the various fields of the ancient knowledge. And here it is touching on Ayurveda, the Vata Pitta Shleshma or the Vata Pitta Kapha as often is known. They are the well-known three doshas of Ayurveda. And then further he says, Dhatavaha Sapta. There are 7 dhatus, which are Tvak, Lohita, Mamsa, Snayu, Asthi, Majja, Shukrani. So these are the 7. This is also concepts from Ayurveda. The Tvak refers to the skin area, Lohita to the blood and the circulatory system, Mamsa to the flesh, Snayu to the nasa or the nerves, Asthi refers to the bone, Majja refers to the bone marrow, Shukra refers to what is known as the virya, the semen, etc. So these are the 7. And now how is this suitable to be known as a vyuha? Further Vyasa says, Purvam Purvam Mesham Bhayyam Mityesha Vinyasaha. So what is the arrangement or the sequencing? The one mentioned in this list in the Saptadhatu, the one mentioned earlier is Bhaya, the external, with respect to the one mentioned subsequently. And that one is Bhaya or external with respect to the one mentioned next, and so on. So in that sense, it is a vyuha. So the skin area is external to the blood and circulation, which is then said Bhaya with respect to the mouth or the flesh, and so on. So that in very, very brief, the Ayurvedic conception of understanding of the body is also mentioned here. The nābhicakre also in the parampara of the chakras, the Shat chakra, etc. This is referred to as a Manipura chakra. And in that parampara, this is also referred to as a dhyana sthana, where again a specific deity with a very colorful description, etc. and a chakra or a lotus or a padma, along with the mention of specific letters, the aksharas of the Sanskrit language, are mentioned as the support for dhyana on that region. So we can see that in the Yoga Sutra also it is being touched upon by saying this. So it has been further described as Sharira Madhyavarti Nābhikanda Rupam Chakram Kadali Moolavad Adav Utpannam. Now this is also interesting, because in Vyuha it says the Nābhikanda at the center, at the navel region, is just like a Kadali Moolavat Adav Utpannam. Kadali refers to the banana plant. So like that, this is the first that arises, like the Kadali Moola. Yataha, now from there, Shakha Pallavadivat, so like in a tree, the Kadali Moola, the root region or the bulb, so in case of the banana plant, that comes out first. And from there is the Shakha Pallavadivat, similar to the branch and the stem and the leaves or the sprouts, or the sprout of the leaves. Here, Shiraha Padadikam Avayava Jatam Urdham Adascha Avirbhavati. So from there, while the Nabhikanda comes first, like the bulb of the banana plant, from there later, in case of the human body, there is the head, the legs, etc. comes from there above as well as below. Urdhvam Adascha Avirbhavati. It takes form or it manifests. So in that, the center of all that, Tasmin nābhicakre Sanyamat. So that is the further elaboration of sort of the position or the place or the importance of the nābhicakra as a locus for Sanyama. So to further complete, Tasmin nābhicakre Sanyamat Sakshat Krite Sati Kayastham Padartha Samuham Rasamala Dhatu Nadi Jivanam Avasthanam Sancharam Cha Janati. So elsewhere all this is said. Because this is the special position of the nābhicakre, by doing this, then all the various things, padartha samuham, the collection of things, which is the rasa, all the rasa, the mala, which is the tridosha, the dhatu, nadi, etc. Their avasthanam and sancharam, where is what established and how does it move? All that information becomes or is realized by the yogi. So then, etasmin jnate jivasya dehantare praveshamapi janati ityarthaha. Because the things described are rasa, mala, dhatu, nadi and jiva as well. So once this kāyavyūha is fully understood and realized, then so this is this other text. It says, etasmin jnate, once that is realized, then jivasya dehantare pravesham. The jiva, now that it is understood with relation to all the various things that make up the body, then at the time of death and rebirth, how the jiva moves from the current embodiment to a different embodiment, that is also realized by the yogi. So that is the sort of the exalted knowledge coming from the sanyama on the nābhicakre and the special position of nābhicakre. And here in this particular chapter, nābhicakre is the first being mentioned in terms of the various regions of the body that we then hear so much in the various other texts, like I mentioned, the Hatha Yogic texts, the Yoga Upanishads, etc. In the Yoga Sutras, this is coming here. And now we learn about how this is conceptualized and what is the siddhi coming from sanyama on this region.
So nābhicakre kāyavyūhajñānam, nābhi, navel. So region of the navel. So this also tells us about the importance of embryology in modern science, and embryology attains greater importance in Yoga Shastra, because navel region, Nabhi, is Kandamula, it is center of embodiment, and there is arrangement of the entire body system around the center, which is Nabhi. And this arrangement of body is not just anatomy as spoken of in exoteric anatomy as to which organ is where, but the kāyavyūha in Oriental thought process, the body is something that houses microcosm, and therefore the body element, body matter, as projected in Yoga Shastra and Adhyatma Shastra is totally different than the body matter projected in modern science of anatomy physiology. Because nowhere that idea is there in anatomy physiology that it houses microcosm. But here it houses microcosm. So therefore, the arrangement of this body has to be unique and must be unique and easily unique. So what is this body matter as spoken of in Ayurveda? It definitely stands quite distinct to body matter described in modern science of anatomy physiology. So kāyavyūha is arrangement of vata, pitta, kapha, trayo doshaha. So this is an Ayurvedic concept which has quite an enormous depth for Sharira Prakriti and Manasa Prakriti, manifestation of body and manifestation of the mind. It has a great role to contribute the Vata Pitta Kapha constitution. So also there are dhatus. Again, Ayurvedic concept which you just covered. Vak, Lohita, Mamsa, Snayu, Asti, Majja, Shukrani. So these are the famous 7 dhatus spoken of in Ayurvedic text. And therefore these body matters are also unique because they have to be allowing a constitution of the panchakoshas and shat chakras in the embodiment and entire microcosm in the embodiment. So if this body is like a ghata, like a pot, our earthen pot merely contains water or might contain some matters. We can fill up a pot with something. But this pot in Hatha Yoga is differently spoken of when the speaker of yoga is very ghatavastha. It's quite an initial stage called ghatavastha. But what is this ghata? It contains Jiveshwara, it contains Deva Devatas, it contains the Panchakoshas, and therefore it is enormous container. And therefore this container, which is made up of Sapta Dhatus, must be unique. And therefore the Sapta Dhatus are also given importance in Ayurveda and Yoga. So this knowledge is so important in spiritual process. You don't need a knowledge of anatomy and physiology for spiritual process. But you need the kshetra jnanam, as spoken of in Bhagavad Gita, which is so important in Adhyatma Pravartanam. So this ghata, the body as a ghata, the body as a pot, incredible pot which contains Jiveshwara, the eternal principles, immortal principles, and also the other things such as Deva Devatas for Adi Devi constitution, Adhyatmic constitution, Adi Bhautik constitution. And therefore the body matter is differently studied in the light of what it contains. The modern anatomy doesn't study the body in the light of what it contains as the immortal principle, living principle, principle of consciousness. But Adhyatma does consider that important. And therefore, kāyavyūhajñānam is so important. It is not the knowledge of the body arrangement as needed for medical purpose, biological purpose, but a greater purpose. And therefore, kāyavyūhajñānam is important. And that is by nābhicakre samyama. Nābhi, the center, the hub of entire wheel of this body and mind complex combination. And that is why it gets enormous importance. And you heard the last statement about the dhatus. Purva purvam esham bhayyam iti esha vinyasaha. So there is an order in this sapta dhatus which Srineet told you about. The tvak is the external most. And what underlies it is the lohita, the blood. And then what is further inside is mamsa, snayu, asti, majja, shukra, etc. So shukra is seminal matter and ovum matter, which accounts for formation of life and a new body and new embodiment. So that is the shukra. So this is a marvelous embodiment which can have progeny. And the progeny is by sperm and ovum cells. And that's why that is really a marvel to understand how this human embodiment is. And of course, it houses Jiveshwara, Atma Paramatma, and the entire celestial world, all the celestial beings. So therefore, that Ghata concept of Hatha Yoga is so important. Sometimes to look into it, then we will know what is this embodiment. It is not just having collocation of liver, stomach, colon, bladder, spleen, pancreas, intestine, duodenum, lungs, and heart. And then the brain having some cerebrum, cerebellum, and lobes and cortices. So many marvels in this embodiment. Therefore, its constitution is to be understood in Adhyatma and Paramartha, in Yoga. Therefore, nābhicakre samyama is mentioned. to understand esoteric aspects of it. Okay.
Now, incidentally, this is not the only place where Vyasa has referred to the Ayurveda. So, if you recollect in the second chapter, when Sutra 2.15, where we discussed Parinamataapa Samskara Dukkaihi, Gunavritta Virodhacha Dukkhameva Sarvam Vivekinaha. In the context of that sutra, Vyasa had said, Yatha Chikitsa Shastram Chaturvyuham. So just like the Chikitsa Shastra, sort of the clinical practice of what the doctors do, the Ayurvedic doctor or any doctor, it consists of 4 parts: Roga Hetuhu, Arogyam and Vaishajyam. So there is the disease, and there is a cause of the disease, then there is a state of health, which is disease-free, and Vaishajyam, the treatment. Similarly, the entire Yoga Shastra was said to be parallel to that. Then we saw okay, what corresponds to Roga? So it is okay, Heyam Dukkham Anagatam. And then what is the Heya Hetu, etc. And that is how the entire Yoga Shastra was described in the second chapter, which then further went on to describe the 8 Ashtangas, etc. and so on. So we see that just like that was done over there, here also as part of the Vibhuti Pada, when describing a particular Sanyama on the nābhicakre, some aspects of Ayurveda were brought in. Okay. So let us stop here today and continue with the subsequent sutras in the next session. Let us recite the shlokas and Guruji. Stop for today. Vaijñānikam pravaktrutta asaneshu kalavidam yogabhyase cha tattvajñam vandeham sundaram gurum yoga vriksho hi lokesmin yatpreranena varditah yogacharya guru tubhyam sundaraya namo namaha. Thank you.
Namaskar all of you.